Imagine waking up one morning to find the tide has not come in, not receded slightly, not pulled back a few feet. Gone. The Atlantic, the Pacific, the Indian Ocean, all of it draining away, as though someone has pulled a plug the size of a continent from the floor of the world. It begins quietly. Within the first few hours, the continental shelves emerge from the water, strip by strip, mile by mile. Vast mudflats stretch to the horizon where open ocean used to be, littered with shipwrecks, rusted cargo containers, and the bones of things that have never seen daylight. Sri Lanka fuses to the Indian subcontinent. Great Britain becomes a peninsula. The shallow seas of Southeast Asia vanish entirely, and what were once the islands of Borneo, Java, and Sumatra are now highlands rising from a single enormous landmass. The Netherlands, after 2,000 years of fighting the sea, finds itself sitting on dry ground for the first time in recorded history. It happens not over centuries, but over the course of a single afternoon. Further down, the ocean floor begins revealing itself in full. At 3 kilometers of depth, the mid-ocean ridge breaks the surface. 40,000 miles of underwater mountain range, longer than every mountain chain on land combined, rising in jagged volcanic peaks across what used to be open water. These are not gentle hills. They are raw, black basalt ridges, still geothermally active, venting superheated mineral clouds into air that was ocean just hours ago. Mauna Kea in Hawaii, which already stands 13,803 feet above sea level, suddenly reveals the rest of itself. Another 19,700 feet of mountain that was submerged. At its full height of 33,500 feet from base to summit, it overtakes Everest entirely. Meanwhile, at the deepest point on the newly exposed ocean floor, the Mariana Trench in the western Pacific sits open like a wound in the earth, 11 kilometers straight down, a canyon so deep that if you stood at the rim, the bottom would be lost in darkness. The marine life dies almost immediately, and horrifyingly, it dies in every direction at once. The fish and mammals near the surface, whales, dolphins, great whale sharks, fall as the water level drops beneath them, tumbling down through thinning columns of retreating ocean onto the exposed floor below. For the creatures of the deep, it is worse. Deep-sea organisms have spent millions of years adapting their biology to pressures of up to 8 tons per square inch. Their cell membranes, their enzymes, every molecule of their physiology is calibrated for crushing darkness. Without that pressure, those same biological structures unravel. If they carry any gas in their bodies, a swim bladder, an air pocket, it expands catastrophically as the water retreats. The hydrothermal vent ecosystems, discovered only in 1977, which sustain entire food chains built around chemosynthetic bacteria, tube worms, blind crabs, pale clams, collapse in hours. There is no marine snow falling from above anymore. There is no above anymore. On land, the consequences unfold over days, and then weeks with grim precision. The ocean contained 97% of all the water on Earth. Without it, the water cycle simply stops. Clouds stop forming. Rain stops falling. The rivers, fed by a hydrological system that no longer has a source, run out within weeks. People and large animals begin dying of dehydration within 3 to 4 days. Plants last slightly longer, a few weeks in some climates, before the dry air begins pulling the moisture from their tissues. Then, inevitably, the forests start to burn. Billions of tons of dead, desiccated vegetation ignite across every continent, and the fires spread without the humidity that would normally slow them. The smoke and carbon fill the atmosphere. The oxygen levels drop. Whatever remains of humanity by that point faces unbreathable air and temperatures that no longer have an ocean to absorb and redistribute the sun's energy. The equatorial regions cook. The poles, stripped of the warm currents that moderate them, freeze harder. Without the ocean's thermal regulation, without the Gulf Stream pushing warm water north, without cold water cycling back toward the tropics, the entire climate system seizes. Scientists who model planetary atmospheres have a name for the end state of a world that has lost its oceans. They call it Venus. The last image is not dramatic. It is quiet and enormous and empty. The ocean floor stretches away in every direction. Ancient sediment, abyssal plains flatter than any desert on land, scattered with the accumulated debris of every civilization that ever lost something to the sea. The water is gone. The sound is gone. 4 kilometers down, in the permanent dark of what used to be the deep Pacific, the hydrothermal vents keep venting, as they have for millions of years, sending their mineral plumes into air instead of water. Nothing is there to receive them anymore. The longest mountain range on Earth rises in silence across a world that no longer has anything left to drain.